All right, welcome to Foundry's Demo Day on May 7th. We're going to do a few things, just demo a couple of minor smoke signal improvements, talk about some of the long-term goals we have. Now we're going to track those and go over the death progress, talk about farming, and then talk about our thoughts on smoke signal marketing. Yeah, so let me get started on the demo of smoke signal. So, yeah, I mean, one minor thing that's changed is that when you navigate around here, the scroll is reset. So that was just a minor sort of annoyance, and that's fixed. The other thing is we're making the compose an actual page. So this is no longer a modal, so it's a full page. So if you look at the original smoke signal, it would do a modal instead, which was annoying because when you clicked outside, it would go away. It was just a weird thing to have as a modal. So going back to the, can't close the tab. Come on now, there we go. Yeah, just a little bit nicer to work with here. And you can type something. Yep.
So two things. Just want to know the oh, okay, cool. So that's where the preview is now. All right. Okay, I must say that would confuse me a little bit.
Yeah, I'm thinking we should maybe move this button down next to submit preview or edit, depending on whether it's in edit or preview mode.
Do you guys have a plan to make the post sort of like inline as well, Reddit style?
No, that's already done.
Not the replies.
Oh,
like in post.
Nested posts you're talking about.
Well, just if you make a new post on Reddit, like sometimes you. Oh no, wait. I'm sorry. I'm wrong. I'm just wrong. Okay, no, cool. This is similar to Reddit in that regard. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So not too much progress this week with smoke signal. Unfortunately, that's all I can really show off. Weird. I got a connection failure thing, but it looks like you guys are still here. Okay. All right. So next up, we want to talk about the long-term goal tracking. So I'll just show this off. It's not much right yet. It's just a very simple spreadsheet. We have a few things we want to track in the long term. So these aren't particular tasks. These are things that we always want to make sure we're doing week by week. So we have, ongoing marketing actions. We want to make a brand identity. For smoke signal, we want to look at the market fit, UX improvement, and scaling. Scaling meaning, so like right now, the app is very sluggish, which is something that scaling will be addressing. Death contract, we have our own Team Toast stuff that we want to, we have some things to figure out. We want to hire more developers. We want to get a better solution for spending credit cards and things on ads, and just figure out some better internal processes. And then these are the three pillars of Foundry autonomy that I've talked about before with wealth governance, high fire network, and fat treasury. And so for each of these, for example, we would, for each week, each Monday, we would say who's in charge of it, and this might not change very often. And then we would do some summary of whatever is being worked on. And each Monday we'd go through and populate this and change it. And then I will actually summarize this in a video on Monday that will replace my Monday vlogs. And then on Friday during these demo days, we'll just revisit these and say how, what kind of progress we made. So that'll do two things. It'll let us make sure we're not missing anything important. For example, these three are easy to forget about when we're focused on smoke signal. And it will also just be a nice way to be more transparent with the community, and just it's too easy to focus on the work and not make any updates, which makes the project seem dead on the outside, which is obviously not at all ideal. And also, this could be used as a sort of material for a more regularly updated roadmap. So yeah, not much, but this should just keep us more consistent on all these lanes, I suppose. Next up, Skulk, do you want to give us an update on the death contract development?
Yes. Hold on a second here. Okay. So on the death contract, we are So we've basically been building for about the last 2 weeks a simulation of the entire maker biting and auction system. Well, as it relates specifically to one CDP. So for those of you familiar with how Death works, it has a maker CDP at the bottom. And then on top of the maker CDP, it has a token contract that we've built, which is also the owner of that CDP. And then that token contract is what you interact with to actually, either mint new Death or to redeem your Death for Fry. Not for Fry, to redeem your Death for Ether. Right. So that's kind of like that's one part of the mechanism. And the other part of the mechanism is DeFi Saver. So once we have this segment up and DeFi, then what we do is we automate this thing with DeFi Saver. So we give our owner of the CDP gives DeFi Saver rights to automate our system. Now, DeFi Saver have a very good track record of preventing your CDPs from getting bitten, but it doesn't have a perfect track record, and it probably won't have a perfect track record going forward. So there's a scenario in which the price of Ether falls so much and the gas prices are so volatile that it's possible that the CDP that our token contract owns gets bitten, which means it gets defaulted. There's a penalty charge on it, and it gets its collateral auctioned off and sold to the market to pay off its bad debt. Right. So obviously, just in what I said, there's a whole lot of steps that happens. Right. So the one thing is the price has to be simulated going down. The second thing is this thing has to be marked as unsafe. Then it has to be bitten. Then there is what's called a tend and a dent process that has to happen, which is essentially the auctioning off of the stuff. Yeah.
Just to clarify, so you're talking about there's a scenario in which a CDP, even with the DeFi Saver automation, can fail. And you're talking about simulating that failure, because I think the part you didn't quite mention yet is that we want to build into Death some way of recovering in the case of that failure. And in theory, it's already built in. So what you're doing now is you're building the simulation to make sure that all of that works. Is that right?
Yes. So basically, that whole aspect that I just told you about was about 4 lines of. The problem is testing it is quite hard. The actual redeeming the thing and rebooting the CDP, so to speak. So let's say it has 150 Ether in it. It gets bitten. It gets auctioned off. At the end of the thing, it only has about 30 Ether in it. Now that 30 Ether still belongs to the remaining Death token holders. So we want to resuscitate the thing so that they can at least pull out that portion of their money, or that the contract can reboot and continue to make Foundry money. The problem is that rebooting step is only around 4 lines of actual code. And as we were building this simulation, we found several things wrong with it, right? Because the simulation, ultimately what we do is we simulate the mainnet, and then we fork from a certain block, and then we go through this whole process of lowering the price, biting the thing, and selling off the collateral, which is all actually just to get to the point to see that if we try to resuscitate it, can we get it alive again, right? So several things went wrong with the get it alive again part. So in the Death version 2 contract versus the version 1 contract, there were 3 major changes that we made to try and address the things from the first audit. The first thing is basically we put in a gas fee, or we call it an automation fee, which doesn't go to the Foundry. It's a variable amount that we can set as Foundry, but it goes to the pool. And that's so that if there's very volatile action as people enter and exit continually, and the entering and exiting itself makes it volatile, that they actually do pay for any potential gas implications of that volatility. That was the first feature. The second feature was that we had oracles depending on makers oracles, which are 1 hour dated. So in other words, the problem is that gives somebody capacity that if there's an upward move, that they can steal the gains from people who are already in the contract. So they can enter at the last moment, wait until the hour is done, and then extract more than they really earn. So in other words, they sort of like steal the gains to a degree from the rest of the people. So we made a different oracle system where that becomes unbelievably unlikely, right? So that is only under extreme circumstances where that happens, and it happens in the opposite direction. So it's far less likely that any attacker can drain out any significant amount of money from that. And then the third improvement we made was this whole recapitalization thing, right? So the first two appear,
and that's what you started describing, is that's called recapitalization.
Yeah, so it's called in the code, it's called move VAT ether to CDP, but that's basically what it does. It just takes the capital, puts it back into the CDP, and reboots the CDP.
In the case of a default.
In the case of a default, yeah. So far the options that we have are either A, because there are other useful things to this to this test or the simulation. The primary one is we can actually see how we boot it up. So in other words, we can actually see, oh, okay, well, we're actually building the whole death contract up to the point where people can put money in and pull it out again. So that's one useful part. And then the back end useful part is that, oh, the price moves against us, what happens? And then if the price moves against us too far, can we resuscitate the thing? So I wouldn't say it was wasted effort. It's definitely still worth it putting in there. I just want to make this note quickly, right? So the way the contract is constructed, there are two, let's call them magic keys. The one is basically the owner of the token itself, the owner of the token contract, and that is going to be the Foundry Treasury key, right? But that thing can do anything to this contract. So it could theoretically take all the money out of the contract, right? It could take it all out and it could run off with it. Right, so we don't want that key live long term, right? Because that's obviously that creates like a centralization risk. The second key is the automation key, and all the automation key does is it just sets the variables. And the thing is, we could remove this recapitalization feature, but it means that we need some way for the owner to recapitalize it manually if things go wrong, right? And my concern is just that if we decide, because I do think Death version 2 is significantly better than Death version 1, yeah?
Sorry, when you say remove this feature, I think more accurately you're talking about we could decide not to work to implement the feature fully and release it without it. Is that
yes,
right? Okay.
Yeah.
So we can, and the benefit there, you're going to talk about the drawback, but the benefit, of course, is that we can release it sooner, release Death sooner.
Exactly, yeah. So the benefit is that we can release the Death contract sooner. And the other bigger benefit maybe is that there's no centralization risk. So no one can look at our code and go, oh, okay, but these guys can control the thing forever, which won't be the case since, okay, so the two scenarios we can go is either A, we just finish it, right? So we just fix it. And I don't think we're talking weeks here, we're talking days of being able to fix it, in my opinion, right? But that might not be accurate. I might be in that 2 weeks trademark part of software. So that's the one option, is we take it out and we put it in later. So we do have that option. We have the option to take this feature out and then include it later and then burn the key. So those are the options that we basically have. It might be that this market is so jonesing for speculative opportunity that us having that key just makes no impact whatsoever. That they just ape in anyway. I mean, they ape into Binance chain, for heaven's sake. So I mean, they'll probably ape into this. Yeah. So option one is we leave it out and then we build it later, but sort of like as a screw-on module, if I could put it that way. The other thing is we just finish it now. So yeah. So those are sort of like the two options. And we're busy with this last features. Its last part is just, at the moment, we're having trouble actually seeing the money go back into the CDP that should have come in when they auctioned off the collateral. So that's kind of like where we are at the moment. I did think of an alternative, and I mean, we don't have to comment about it now, but the alternative is basically that we have a delay owner. So in other words, the only way that people can really steal money out of these systems is if they have full access to those things. But what I was thinking was if we gave the the ownership of this contract to a delay contract. So in other words, we gave the Foundry Treasury control of the owner for this thing, but anything that goes through the owner is delayed by 7 days. If we did that kind of a thing, then theoretically we actually like maybe in a better position, because then we can fix anything that goes wrong, and we can never steal money from the majority of people because they'll see it coming. So anyway, yeah, so that's kind of like where we are on the death contract. At the moment, the plan is just to finish this primary simulation, get it back to the auditor, show him that basically, and then if we get another clean bill of health, launch the thing. We are chatting to somebody to do a secondary audit on it. Yeah, but that's not fully decided yet. So yeah, so that's where we are in the death contract.
Cool. All right. Thanks for that. That was good. I think I might send a timestamp of that particular. That was a really nice description of death. So that'd be good to link to. All right. So farming is up next, although that's more of a brainstorming discussion. So maybe let's first skip to Chris.
Okay, cool. Sorry. Let's go on to the first system.
Yeah, Chris wanted to talk a little bit about our thoughts on the smoke signal marketing.
Yeah. So at the moment, what we've been doing is to drive a lot of relevant traffic to the platform, and we can see interest in people trying to use the thing. We've also, last week, as explained, seen that people struggle to use this thing, and that's why we started designing some new mock-ups with the in-dApp wallet with Kim that we're still busy on. And she's creating some mock-ups in Adobe XD that we'll be able to demo pretty soon. She's already created some stuff, and it's basically extending that now.
Yeah, and that'll just be for the onboarding in particular. The onboarding will be a lot nicer.
Yeah. But another thing we realized is that people have conversations where the conversation happens. So like, think of it, a bar example, for instance. People have nice conversations in the bar because there's a lot of conversation and there's a nice vibe going on. And on Smoke Signal, we've been attracting a lot of the more, I wouldn't say necessarily negative, but a very kind of hectic kind of post and comment on there. And we're trying to attract content that will create a better conversation on the platform, so that when somebody comes to the site and they see it, they actually want to post there and reply on the stuff. But what happens is people post and write comments, but nobody ever replies to the comments. There's no reason to go back because there's no real conversation happening there. Now we could keep on running the marketing and trying to get somebody to sort of bring their conversation to the platform, which is a very shotgun approach. So what we've done is we've started creating a short list of guys and organizations where they've either already got a YouTube following and they're having problems with the algorithm blocking them for whatever reason, and they have this need to communicate with the community. One quick example, I should have had this ready. Let's find the link. Alex Belfield, about pronouncing his surname correctly, but he recently said some stuff about COVID, and the algorithm picked it up and sort of banned his account for a week. And during that time, he sort of panicked because there was no way for him to communicate with his followers. So what he did now is he created a newsletter list so he can send communication in terms of newsletters, and he's looking at a UK free speech site. And I mean, isn't this guy just a perfect candidate for Smoke Signal? Reach out to him, tell him that we can actually create a sub version of Smoke Signal that's sort of nested inside the platform, and we can brand it even with your content and that kind of thing. We can even give you the ability to change that content, and it still happens on Smoke Signal, but it's sort of a sub Smoke Signal, so like a subreddit. It's sort of a sub Smoke Signal channel. And so the idea is to start reaching out to those kind of people. We're building a list and doing some research. And that's also why we're creating some professional centralized. Unfortunately, it's only centralized at this stage. There's no way to decentralize it yet, but mailing solutions so that we can also send some professional emails when reaching out. So it actually, feels like a legit organization, not some guy on Gmail somewhere sitting and reaching out. So creating that legit feeling and reaching out to these guys and potentially getting some of them to decide to actually use this thing and then bring that following over, because remember, they have control over where they send the followers. Currently, that guy will tell them, go there, subscribe to the newsletter so I can communicate with you. But he can then say in his next video, this is now my platform, I'll communicate with you there. And he'll never be able to be deplatformed again like he is on YouTube. So that's the current goal. And if we can succeed in that, even one of these people, and we can get, a few thousand or 100,000 users on Smoke Signal to start using it regularly and start creating some fresh conversation on there, then driving more relevant traffic will certainly result in people starting to use the platform. So yeah, that was just the marketing angle that I wanted to give feedback on that we are working on.
I
Yeah.
really like.
Chris, you said something about using a form, like a Google form, to actually solicit suggestions on this sort of thing from the community. Is that right?
Yes. So I've created a list of criteria that we want before reaching out. I put it in a sheet for now. I still have to put it into a form, but we'll share that form with the community. And so the community can then also submit ideas of people they might know that we can reach out to for this kind of usage scenario. So that's definitely also an angle we're going to use.
Cool. All right, so the last thing on the list is farming here, but I don't know, Skalk, if that's what you want to jump into, or if it was something else.
Yeah, so I just want to say about the farming. The previous cycle we did 10K and 10K. I'm still sitting on the 110K because we never heard back from Pancake Swap. It appears to me at the moment, well, okay, so two things have changed since last month this time. The one thing is that the Polygon network, if you guys don't know about the Polygon network, go check it out. It's a side chain very similar to XDAI, but it has better guarantees in terms of depositing and withdrawing assets. We have one of their engineers, who is somebody, Logan, I think you might enjoy on a personal level, John Lilick. He has agreed that he'll do like an interview with us. I'm just waiting for the end of this death stuff to actually get to the other side of that and do it, unless you and Chris want to do it. But I mean, I wouldn't mind meeting the guy, but I mean, if you guys want to do the preparation for it, then I'll just jump into it. I'm just waiting for some of the death stuff to get to a certain point before I sequence that. Anyway, sorry, I jump around a bit, but the thing is that at the moment, it looks like Polygon is the chosen one in terms of where lots of the DeFi projects are moving. I'm speaking under correction, but I think Optimism is still not live. There might be some delays there, and people are very, very optimistic about the guarantees from Polygon. So Polygon has a thing called Quick Swap on it. So what I'm thinking is that we give it a little bit more time, but then we launch a Quick Swap pool as well. Right. In the meanwhile, what I suggest we do is I suggest we take $20,000 and we just chuck it at the main pool we have now. The previous amount, I mean, all the liquidity we had up to this point was, what was sort of like we were renting it at 10K. So I'm assuming we can rent twice as much as at 20K. The previous price spikes we saw did seem to, they coincided with this, but I suspect that it might be that some people actually also posted some nice high traction stuff on 4chan Biz. So currently my idea with the liquidity is just, we literally, sorry, I actually mean that we do it like today, like after this call, that we just get 20K, we send it to the existing farming contract, and we just announce that everywhere, and then we keep farming. And then I think once we have a better understanding of the Polygon dynamics, that we run a farm there as well. HCryptoZ has kindly bridged Fry already to Matic. So there is a official Fry token on Matic that you can run through their, I think it's their proof of stake bridge. I think they've got.
And is Matic related to Polygon? Is that
Matic
just another
same thing. They rebranded
Okay.
for some reason to Polygon. Yeah. So Matic is Polygon. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's what happened. Pancake just didn't get back to us at all. And I mean, like H messaged them multiple times, asked them multiple times.
Several different channels as well, right?
Yeah, several different channels. And there's another thing that's very concerning about them as well. And that is that, I mean, first of all, PancakeSwap is just a clone of Uniswap v2. And the thing that's concerning is because they have this broken blockchain where they just take out all the guarantees and they run it at maximum speed. The analytics software that actually makes the thing that tells you what the volumes are for different coins for the Uniswap clone couldn't keep up. It eventually just broke, and it broke weeks before. I don't know, like it seems like it broke days before we try to do this, and it hasn't come back online once. So in other words, even if we do go there, nobody knows. Like if we have a farm of 400%, you'd have to know it's there because you can't see it in the list. So so I'm sort of like, well, okay, maybe that turned out for the best. Maybe that would have been a little bit of a waste of funds. So Matic does seem to be, like I said, it seems to be the chosen one now in terms of where people want to move to with all the serious projects, the things like Curve and that kind of stuff. They're not going to try and run their dollar-based system on, on BSC, but they'll definitely run it on. They already actually are running it on Matic. If you want to go check it out, by the way, guys, they've got it's an insane ROI at the moment. It's like 50% for DAI or some ludicrous amount that they're farming on Curve there. But anyway, long story short, what I think we should do right now after this, we should take 20,000 from the treasury. We should chuck it into the farm. We should keep everyone who's giving us liquidity at the moment happy. We should at least double the liquidity doing that. And I think we should just reset that until we have a good idea of the Polygon situation.
Perfect. I agree completely. Anything else from me to you guys, or shall we end it there and make that move right away?
Nothing else.
Cool. All right. See you later, YouTube. And yeah, by the time you see this, you'll probably see the farming will be back online. So cool.